Hi, this is the video for Thursday, December 10th for 11th grade English, and we are going to be looking at what we did today in class. Apologies for the delay on yesterday's video. Hopefully that didn't slow you down too much. So today we're starting the film, and there's slides there linked to the agenda starting at 1:50. It's a really long slideshow where I'll introduce the new terms for today, following action and resolution. Now that we've finished the book, we can answer those questions. And then we move into the film. We will be doing 30 minutes of the film a day for 4 days starting today. The film is only available by coming to class. I cannot share the link. I cannot distribute the link, that is, because it violates copyright. So if you want to see the film, you have to be in class. There are a couple of ways to see it on your own, but you'd have to buy it. And I'll talk you through that. It's only $3, but still, I don't want to assume anyone could buy that. I'm asking you to be in class. I am going to assign one last piece of writing next week where you have to answer the question, what is the climax of the story? And you can answer that with or without the film. So I'm trying hard to make that little assignment something you can complete even if you don't have access to the film. In the slides for today, we looked at film. And I believe film is a genre worth its own study. It's not like we're watching the movie because it's easy. It's difficult to analyze a very good film, and I'll be asking you to do that along the way. I think this is an excellent film, worthy of our scrutiny. So we'll kind of talk through what does it do? What does a film do? Like I said, we'll be watching the film in class during class time. Here are all of the ways that you could rent it if you choose not to come to class. Hulu, if you have certain subscriptions, HBO Max, Prime Video, all of those, you need to have a premium subscription, so it doesn't come with the standard. Or you could rent it off these other platforms for $3. I think that the rentals are good for about 48 hours. So if you did that, you'd have to watch it once really quickly on your own time. Of course, ideally, you'd come to class and just see it with us. There's a real power to being with the class too. But some of you do your work asynchronously, and you really do it well asynchronously. And in that case, I'll work with you to make sure you can get your film view. Like I said, the daily work won't require you to have seen the film. So these are our last two terms, following action and resolution. Following action are the pieces of the story that happen after the climax, when the story unwinds the tension of the climax. Some really important moments of following action in True Grit. The first is when Blackie dies. It's not the climax of the story. It's not the most intense moment, but it is an intense moment that happens in the unwinding of the action. Another piece of following action, also critical, is when Maddie loses her arm. Her arm is amputated because of the snake bite. It's not critical. It's not the most intense moment of the story, but it's certainly important. Another piece of following action is when she goes to visit Rooster and finds out that he's died. Also really critical, but it's an unwinding of the action. It's not central to the action. Or when she finds out LaBeef got the money for Tom Chaney's body. All of those are pieces of following action that lead to the resolution. The resolution, it's more a single concrete moment that you can point to as the end of the conflict. So the conflict in this story is really Maddie going off on this journey to find Tom Chaney. When is that all resolved? When is she back safely in a safe place and Tom Chaney is no longer a threat? And that is in the moments where she's gotten her arm amputated and she's done with the adventure. It's not the moment when she shoots Tom Chaney, even though that was our biggest antagonist in this story, because action is very much happening still. The conflict is not concluded. But at the end, after she awakens from her surgery and she's in the room with the doctor, the conflict has been resolved. So we're going to move into the film and figure out how they depict all of these narrative elements. I'm going to talk a little bit about film first and why it's worthy of study. Elements, that word we keep using, it just means pieces, the different parts and pieces of a genre of film. So we started with just some discussion which if you're not in class and you're looking at this, we'll look at the resolution of those discussions. So generally speaking, most people tend to love certain movies for the same reason they love books, certain books. It has a good story or a plot, characters, or a theme that they really like. These are things that happen in English class too. And so in the context of literature, we will look at film as having literary elements, which it does. True Grit, there's our book. Without it, without the story, there is no film. Literary elements make a good film. Make a film and not just a video. So other things that people might cite, an exotic setting or maybe a performance of an actor, those would be theatrical elements. Those are the things that are brought to the world of film from the theater. How someone acts out a part, how Jeff Bridges acts out the part of Rooster, that's theatrical, that's coming to us from the stage. Costume, makeup, lighting. They're everything we see in a shot, every object, every person, plus their surroundings, how it's all moved around. The what is inside of a shot is the mise en scène. Those things are the theatrical elements of movie. There's a great shot from Hamilton. And then lastly, there's another body of work that is unique to movies. It's not in literature and it's not in theater. It's the cinematic elements of a film that come to us from the word cinema. Those are things like cinematography, which is the process of just capturing those images on film, which is an astounding technology that was only developed 150 years ago. So that cinematography made possible by some of these technologies. And then editing, the way that those things are strung together. The shot is the building block of that editing, and the cut is how they're taking those shots and putting them together or taking them apart. The last element of cinema that is unique to cinema, cinematic elements, is sound. The sound that can be edited into a film that is not necessarily something you could find ever in a book, and not easily anyway in the theater. So these three things come together. In the middle here of our Venn diagram are the elements that we have in common from novels to theater to film. And this is really what we're supremely interested in this class, how all of those worlds coincide for our study. But if you take a film class, you would focus more on these elements here. And then, of course, in English class, we typically focus more on the things that are unique to the world of literature and then sometimes the world of theater. So we're going to look at how three of those things come together and they reinforce each other with one particular scene you'll see today. In this scene, Maddie is laying in her boarding house asleep, and she awakes to LaBeef. LaBeef, played by Matt Damon, is looking at her. And as he gets out of his chair, Maddie hears a jangling sound, and she looks towards the floor. And there she sees LaBeef's spurs. So we cut to the next shot, and that is editing. We presume this is from Maddie's point of view because we see that she's looking at this boot, and that is cinematic. We see LaBeef's ridiculously huge spurs, which is part of the character's costume. It's mise en scène, but that also comes to us from the theater. We can see clearly that the shot is what's called a close-up, and that's from the world of cinematography, focusing on just one part of the body. From all of this, from the cinematic elements and the theatrical elements, we get to these literary elements, because we can infer something about LaBeef's characterization, and that is very much a literary word. Namely, that he is a show-off who has more style than substance. When we get to this scene, we can look for other things about his character that we learn, where the camera is placed, how he acts, how Matt Damon plays that character. And so you see the worlds of books, theater, and film all coming together in this moment. So as we keep moving through this viewing next week, we're going to learn some more about the theatrical, the cinematic, and the literary elements And as we write here, we'll hopefully help you be more of an active participant in viewing a film instead of just consuming it the way that might consume junk food. This is about studying and appreciating the fine food that you can have at a fancy restaurant. I mean, that's what film study is. And this will actually make your movie watching more enjoyable. You'll see more to unpack and understand. Here are the credits for this work, because we couldn't do it without all of the people who are involved in making the movie. The Coen brothers have a lot of famous films, many of them award-winning, and they're the ones who took True Grit to the screen in 2010, 10 years ago. There's a much older version that's also excellent. It's featuring John Wayne, sort of famously. Anyway, here are all the other people involved in the making of what we're about to see, True Grit. Now, at this point, I am going to talk to you about the film. If you cannot be in class, and that's you if you're watching this video, talk to me about how you can see the film. Like I said, I'll include assignments that you could complete without having seen the film, but the film is really, really good, and I'd love for you to be able to watch it. So just chat with me about how you can do that, and we'll get you set up.